right. Welcome back, everyone. Thank Miss. Is that too loud? I'm usually not this loud, but thank Miss Patty for a wonderful presentation. Listening to her presentation and thinking about some of the things that she was talking about reminded me a lot of things that have happened to me throughout my career. I'm Doug Smith, by the way. Just a little bit about my background. I'm worked at Buckhorn Children's Center, which is a residential treatment facility, for 13 years. I had a self-contained classroom, EBD, all boys, high school age, which was a lot of fun. I learned a lot with those guys. Just saying. Then I worked at Buckhorn Elementary High School. It's a K through 12 school in Prairie County. Some of you may know. We had I think a total population of maybe 450 K through 12. So I worked with those kiddos for a while. I didn't work with the Montessori program at Buckhorn, but both my sons went to the Montessori program, and that was a lot of fun. I learned a lot of stuff from there. I learned that, not everyone understands that kiddos are right and left-handed. They think they're all right-handed. So my oldest son, he was at the Montessori, and they, of course, had to have a conversation with me one day after school. So I said, well, we're concerned. He don't know how to hold a pencil. He can't write his name. He don't know his letters, his colors, his numbers. So I was like, what do you mean? I said, pick a pencil up and write your name. He picked it up with his left hand and wrote his name. He said, no, he's using the wrong hand. I said, no, he's not using the wrong hand. So anyway, because I knew his numbers, he knew his numbers and his colors and how to read because of NASCAR. So some of the words he read weren't really appropriate at times, but he knew how to do that. Then my youngest son was at the Montessori, and I got a call for him one day, of course, and it was like, we need to talk to you, and I was like, okay, what's going on? So they had this big fake tree in the Montessori building. They're beautiful. Had big rock bottom of it, so it wouldn't tip over and stuff. And evidently, some little fellow climbed up in the tree, and my son was down there throwing rocks at him, trying to get him out of it. So we can't be doing that. I said, all right. So we had a Christmas party, and somebody brought some cupcakes. So my youngest, he picked one of those cupcakes up and looked at it, licked the icing off from it, and set it back down. Guess who got to bring a plate of cupcakes home? So good job, son. But nobody else wanted them. But anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, I'm talking about where I went. So I went through K through 12, worked with kindergarten through 6th grade for a few years. Had two of the smartest kids I've ever had in my life. Nobody else wanted them, so I got them. They taught themselves how to read. They taught themselves how to tell time, numbers, everything. They were self-taught. All I did was sit there and presented them with material. Smartest kids I ever knew. Had no social skills, had no skills on what to do in real world stuff. So you got to teach kiddos everything that you want them to do. Got to teach them hallway procedures. Got to teach them how to walk down the hallway, how to catch a bubble, whatever your hallway procedures are. Have to teach them that. You have to model that behavior, and you have to practice that behavior and reinforce that behavior. I had to teach these kids how to wash their hands after using the restroom. I was like, well, they went to the bathroom, but that was all cool and dandy there. Thank goodness I didn't have to do that. They come out, hands soaking wet, wiping up and down my pants and my clothes and stuff. Said, Mr. Smith, that soap won't soap. And I was like, what are you talking about? They said, the soap won't soap. And they were just getting real nervous and antsy. And so they grabbed me by the hand, one on one hand, one on the other, and dragged me into the bathroom and reached in the urinal and picked that urinal cake up and said, the soap won't soap, the soap won't. Thanks, guys, I appreciate that. So I had to teach them what that was. I had to teach them that. But that just goes to a point. You got to make sure that you teach your kids what you want them to do. We all have our behavior expectations or rules or whatever, how we want our kiddos to act. So you have to teach those kids how to do that. Just like reading and writing and math. You can't just, okay, here's an assignment, do that. You got to teach those things. You've got to make sure that you model those behaviors, practice those things. So just a reminder of that. So anyway, there I went from the high school, from K through 6, and then 6 through 12, and then up to the co-op. So I've been in the classroom several years, and then been up here for several years, and so that's a little bit about me. And going from that role of working in the classroom to working in the co-op is a difficult transition. I still have a difficult time with that because a lot of times we throw acronyms around, especially in special ed, we throw acronyms around, and then up here we throw things around and we name people and stuff that we've seen in places that we've been that, you know, as an educator you may not have that privilege or that opportunity to see I've already forgot her name. What's her name? Dee Paul, what's her name?
Anita Archer.
Anita Archer, yeah, yes. Oh, thank you. Explicit instruction. Wonderful instructor, wonderful presenter. I mean, it is just simple, basic teaching ideals that go a long way. She was phenomenal. We went to Lexington to a presentation for 5 days, and I was good all 5 days. Yeah, so I did behave myself. I sat still. I took notes. I didn't. But anyway, ladies, wonderful. So, you know, and if we say something or a name or something that you don't understand, please ask questions because, you know, like I said, it's just difficult to move from that role back and forth. So anyway, all right, enough wasting that time. I will get going now because I know I'm working up to lunchtime and then that's about it for me. So today, welcome everyone. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for taking your time out of your busy schedule to come visit with us and hopefully learn some information and network. Get to know each other. Make those connections so that when I'm having a difficulty with my classroom, I may reach out to someone that I have met at a conference or at a mini conference or online or a meeting or something to say, hey, you know, I'm struggling, I'm having this problem, what can we do? How can you help me? So make those connections, and I call it networking, other folks call it other things, but I'm networking, okay? So we can do it that way. So today we're going to be talking a little bit briefly about some small group individual behavior management strategies, some things that you may already do, but what we say, you got to name it and claim it. So when you put a name to what we're doing, you may already be doing this, you just don't know what it's called. And it was like before we talked about circles in another. Does anyone do circles? Circles is a way of kind of gauging the classroom. It's a restorative practice type thing, and circles are a way that you start the day off. Just have your kids meet in a circle and you discuss, you know, it could be used, hey, how you doing this morning? What's going on? Did you have a good weekend? Tell me about this or whatever. So I did that when I was in the classroom. Well, I didn't know it was called circles. We just had a meeting every morning. Say, hey man, did you have a good evening? You know, who won the game? How did you do? Stuff like that. Whatever the kids want to talk about. Talk about 5-10 minutes or whatever, but it set the stage for the day because just like Miss Patty was saying, those threshold greetings, every time a kiddo comes into your classroom or leaves your classroom, good morning, glad to see you, or thank you for paying attention, thank you for being attentive, thank you for answering questions. Be specific with behavior that you acknowledge. You know, thanks, everybody did a good job. No, be specific of what that behavior was that you acknowledge. Our principal told us, he said, you know, I want everyone outside your door every morning and say good morning to these kiddos as they come down the hallway. So we had someone met them off the bus, usually the principal, good morning, glad to see you. He'd point something out or whatever, you know, and then as they come in the front door, someone's standing at the front door in the foyer, opening the door for them, they come in, good morning, happy y'all here. You know, every hallway they pass, somebody would say something, recognize that kid. You know, small schools, so usually knew everybody. And so it was just an easy way to get a gauge on what the kids were like that day and set that kid into a positive mood. So, you know, we had one kid, hadn't seen him, it was his first few days of school. He come walking down the hallway, and so our principal looked at him and said, oh, wow, man, said, you've grown a foot over the summer. Dead serious. The kid stopped, looked down and said, nope, still just got 2, and kept right on walking. I was like, man, that was a good one right there. You can't deny that. So anyway, we're going to be talking briefly about group contingencies. We're going to be looking at break cards and an intervention called Class Pass. And then we're going to be briefly talking about check-in and check-out. Now, if you think about tiers of behavior intervention, just like tiers of academic intervention, behavior has those same tiers. So group contingencies, whole group, everybody, you know, that could be a tier 1 strategy that you use. A tier strategy could be break cards and class pass because it is more small group setting, or it could even be tier 3 strategy because it could be individualized as well. And then check in and check out is usually a small group of kiddos that you work with that need that extra attention. So check in and check out could be either I look at it as a tier 2 intervention. So just in case anybody says, well, did y'all talk about the tiers? Yes, we did. Tiers. All right. So first thing we want to look at, like I said, are the group contingencies, and there's 3 types of group contingencies. So basically, what is a group contingency? Group contingencies are those things in which a shared consequence, some way that something the kiddos are getting. Now, consequences, a lot of time we think of what? Negative, right. So a lot of times when I say, when we look at antecedent behavior and consequence, we think about, antecedent is what happens for the behavior our kiddos exhibit. The behavior, of course, is a thing that you can see, and then the consequence is not how did we punish that kid, but how did we respond to that kid's behavior. If Miss Sarah says something and I walk over to her desk immediately after she says whatever it was, it could be positive, it could be negative, whatever. So what was the consequence of her speaking out? Attention, right? I provided her with attention. I walked to her desk. The antecedent may have been I put something on the board, a math problem on the board, and she says, "This is stupid." "Oh, I see you're struggling. How can I help you?" So that the consequence is not, "You need to shut it, close that book, get out of here." That's not a consequence, but how you respond immediately after that behavior. So anyway, all right. So back on consequences is how, in this situation, are going to be, we can interchange the word reward. How are we going to reward our kiddos for following the rules, or expectations, or whatever you want to call it, that apply to all students? And so this is, this contingency is based the same. The consequence applies to all members of a group. And group contingencies can be based on independent activities, independent behavior, or independent students. It can be interdependent or it can be dependent. So if we look at independent, each member's performance toward that criteria, whatever you set as the criteria or success criteria, determines if that individual gets that reward. For instance, if I'm talking about everyone turning their homework in, if you turn your homework in, you get a sticker. You get 3 stickers, you get something, larger, you can trade them in. So is that dependent on anybody else doing their homework? Who's responsible for that behavior to earn that reward? Me, myself, the student. That is independent. Your performance determines if you are rewarded or not. So it's independent group contingency. The interdependent group contingencies is all members of the group must individually meet the criterion. So if you're doing a group project, which sometimes we get to do, and we would do projects in science class, and my kiddos would get to go out to science class, of course, and you'd have 2 or 3 kids in the group that did all the work, and then everybody's supposed to get a reward for it. Everybody got a popcorn party or whatever it was. Well, I'd have my kids, the ones that figured the system out, those loopholes, would sit back and do nothing. Everybody else did all the work, and then they still got rewarded for it. So with interdependent contingencies or interdependent groups, then everybody in the group must work for everybody to get the reward. Does that make sense? So if we got a small group today and our behavior of concern may be calling out or talking amongst sidebar conversations, that's what we'll call it. And so my table, this is my star table. So if the star table has the ones that are having that difficulty, I may work with them on a contingency plan that, okay, everyone has to be quiet during, lecture or class lecture, while I'm presenting. If everyone's quiet while I'm presenting, I'll give you 10 minutes at the end of class to talk with your neighbors to discuss whatever you want to talk about. But if one person doesn't follow those instructions or those expectations, the whole group loses that reward. Okay? So independent means it's just me. Interdependent means it's everybody in the group. And then dependent is if certain members of a group meet the criteria, then the whole class gets the reward. Okay, so an example of that, I had some kiddos that had a difficult time during lunch. They'd go into the cafeteria, man, they could get their tray and they could sit down and they could eat, be finished in 2 or 3 minutes. I mean, you know, chicken nugget, piece of corn, running all over the place. You know, so we had tables in our cafeteria that each table set out. So it was always table 3 that had the problems. So those kiddos, you know, we decided, you know, all right, so now, table 3, if everyone, you know, cleans their tray, sits in their seat, keeps their area clean, and doesn't get up and run all over the cafeteria, then at the end of the day today, we're going to watch a film in the cafeteria. You know, there's a cafeteria, gym, auditorium, gymnasium, auditorium, or something, I don't know, somebody, cafeteria, or whatever. So everyone got to come in there and watch a little video at the end of the day. If table 4 or table 3 did what they were supposed to, if they followed the expectations, if they knew our PBIS big goals for cafeteria was stay seated, you know, be safe, be kind, be responsible, and then what did that look like? So they knew that they had to follow those rules and expectations. And that just helps everyone, and the kid that you're looking at for everyone as far as dependent, everyone to get the reward, the kiddo can be singled out, a specific kid or a specific group of kids, but you don't let them know who they are. Because if you let me know that I got to behave, which I had a bet going, then I will know to behave for a little while. But if not, and you tell me to be myself, then you're going to get the real me. So does that make sense? So independent depends on you, one person. Interdependent is a group of people working together, and dependent is everyone getting rewarded depends upon the behavior of 1 or 2 kids or 3 kids or a group of kids or things like that. So, any questions so far? All right, so we're going to watch a little video if it works. I'm hoping it does. It kind of helps. This is an ideal. This is called the 3 jars, and it goes along with a way of enforcing or reinforcing or using the group contingencies that we just spoke a little bit about.
The 3 jars. Today, your teacher is going to use 3 jars to monitor your behavior and reward everyone in class. The first jar is labeled behaviors and contains several slips of paper, each with the behavior written on it. For example, one slip could say homework 90%. That means if your homework is completed with over 90% accuracy, the entire class gets a reward. Another slip might say raise hand 100%. That means if you raise your hand 100% of the time, your class gets a reward. Your teacher will go over all the behaviors with you before putting them into the jar. The second jar is labeled who. In this jar are several slips of paper. One piece says whole class. Another says table 1, 2, or 3. And there's even a piece of paper with every student's name written on it. The last jar is labeled rewards. Like the other jars, there are pieces of paper inside. However, on these pieces are things you like to earn. For example, extra recess time, stickers, preferred seating, and snacks. To start the activity, your teacher will shake and then pick one slip from the behavior jar. But your teacher's not going to show the class what behavior was picked. Remember, you know all the possibilities, but you won't know what specific behavior was chosen. Next, your teacher will choose a slip from the who jar and not show anyone. Don't forget, your name is on a piece of paper in that jar along with everyone else in the class. Then, the lesson will continue as usual. But remember, your teacher is watching for a specific behavior from a specific student or set of students. Try your hardest to follow the rules and meet the behavior criteria so you can help your class earn a reward. Because at the end of the lesson, your teacher will announce if the criteria was met. If it was, a student will get to pick from the rewards jar, and the entire class will be rewarded. If the criteria was not met, the teacher will simply ask the class to try harder tomorrow. The 3 jars.
All right.
Would you tell us a student was if it didn't get rewarded?
No, I wouldn't think so. Because, I mean,
They're like singles them out.
Yeah.
You didn't get a snack
yeah, because you didn't do this or whatever.
because of you didn't get that.
Yeah, all right, yeah, because some kids, yeah, and that's a good question brought up, and I thought too. So yeah, no, I don't think I would single them out anymore. You may talk to them privately, you know, instead of saying, and the reason you didn't get snack is because, you know, so. Do we let them know what behavior that we're watching for?
No.
No. You keep that staff knows what behavior you're looking for. That way you can determine, you know. And then when you're looking at that behavior that you're going to be observing or watching, you would want to make sure it's measurable, observable, and objective. Everybody understands what staying in your seat looks like. You know, everyone understands what, you know, calling out is. Everyone understands that, and they're on the same page what that behavior looks like. Because what I may think a behavior is may not be the same to everyone else. So make sure that you're on the same page with that. Now, and also with, what was the other one? Oh yeah, rewards. What kind of rewards are you going to choose? What kind of rewards are you going to provide the kids with? Is it something that's rewarding to me, or what did you say? Yes, very good. That's what the students find rewarding. I had a couple of kiddos, their reward was going to the library and reading. I mean, I said, really guys, you've read all day and we've did all this work and and they wanted to go to the library and read. And that's what we did, you know. Then they got into watching educational films, you know. Now these are kindergarten, first grade kids. So I was like, oh my gosh, here we go, you know. Magic School Bus or whatever. They wanted to watch ecosystems. They wanted to watch about the atmosphere and the rain clouds. And I was like, golly, man, y'all blow my mind. All right, let's watch whatever you want to watch. And it was always those upper grade level videos that they wanted to watch, because the other stuff wasn't interesting to them. It was rewarding to me to watch that stuff. But them, no, let's do something educational, Mr. Smith. Like, all right, sounds good. So, if you have, like I said, the one example I gave with the cafeteria, this may be a good strategy to use, because you know what behavior you're looking for. You know, the kids don't know what behavior, which one or who that you're watching, and then you can do the observation, monitor, supervise, and then they would then afterwards reward the kids with what they find rewarding. All right, good. Anyone else? Yes, Miss Dion.
I just wanted to ask a question as we're talking about it. When you're thinking about kids and talking about letting them choose the rewards, how can you go about that? What process might you use to involve the kids in that reward system?
That's a very good question. What do you think? No, I would do an interest inventory. I mean, you can create your own interest inventory. You can find one on Google. You can find just about anything that you want to. Just ask the kiddos. I mean, ask them themselves. I worked with a young high school kid. I said, if you have a really good day at school, what would you like to do at the end of the day? And he was like, I'd like to go to the gym and run laps. And I was like, all right, brother. So, that's rewarding to him. Yeah, you can tell by looking at me, lap running is not a reward. I'm not going to work very hard to do any of that stuff. So, but anyway, yeah, I would just maybe ask the kids themselves. I mean, there's different ways that you can determine that. So, anybody got any ideas on how you can find out what could be rewarding to those?
Parents. That's a good way.
Oh, very good. Yes, especially if we're working with kiddos that are nonverbal and may not understand what you're asking them. Ask the parents, what do they like at home? What are some things that they're interested in? And we'll talk about that too, because finding out from the parents, when they're with the kids. You're with the kids 6 or 7, 8 hours a day. The parents are with them the rest of the time. So whatever works at home, share with the school so that school can implement the same strategies there, and then have that consistency across environments so they can generalize that behavior each environment that they're in. Thank you.
You'd also have to look at like what time of day it was, like if they said they wanted to go outside and play and it was raining, or if they said they like cupcakes but they had just had lunch, it wouldn't be very motivating.
And she said, you know, time of day. For example, if you use there was food as a motivator, if they just had lunch and they were going to get a cupcake, they may not find that very rewarding. Going outside, and like Miss Patty said, yes, we're going outside and it rains, then you can't do that. What time, and then what time is the recess? How does it conflict with other things? And so.
And you also have to make sure the parents aren't going to go buy them whatever that they're working for. My kids in speech are working to win this big Valentine's Day huge dog. And the little girl said, I don't care about your dog because my mom said she'll buy me one. And I was like, well, okay.
Right. So most of you heard that. So yeah, being sabotaged by, you know, and then we do that to the parents as well. Sometimes, you know, the parents may have this, you know, there's no tablet time, no iPad time, whatever. They can't get on there and play games. And then they come to school and as a reward, yeah, we'll let you play these video games. And then so, you know, it's a two-way street. So that's where communication with the parents is really important. I know it's hard to do. Sometimes, most of the time that we call parents is when we're having a rough time with the kiddo and we're struggling. But have those conversations, those positive conversations, before you have to have those difficult conversations with those parents. Build that relationship with those parents. Just like the kiddos you work with, you got to build that relationship with the parents as well. All right. Good, we good? Right, so the 3 jars, you can go to YouTube and watch that again if you need to. I thought it was a pretty cool little strategy to use. So the next thing we're going to be talking about briefly are break cards. Does anyone use break cards already? Yes, sir. Anyone else? Oh, no, let's hear it. What's Miss Patty? That's me. All right, so we got a couple folks. All right, thank you. Y'all can help me with this part then. So what are break cards? Break cards are a way that the student, it's a visual that the student can use to let you know that they're struggling, they're frustrated, that I just need a break. It could be a break from an activity, it could be a break from a person. Believe it or not, they don't like you all the time. I mean, it's hard to believe. It could be just a break from the environment that they're in. It may be too much going on, and there's too much noise, too much sound, too much light, too much color. They just need a break. Go to the library, go somewhere. So the break card is a visual that they use to help you tell you that they need a break from the situation they're in. And so why would our students want to use a break card? How many of you would be using a break card right now if you had it? That's me. Right. So because, you know, 45 minutes to an hour sitting in a classroom, working, doing schoolwork, I'm lucky to make it 30 minutes in a staff meeting. So, you know, I got to have something to do. I need a break. So how many of our kids that we work with, if you get 30 minutes out of them, an hour, you are doing something, you know. So I mean, they need a break. So and what can I do? So they just need a break, like we were said just briefly, from the environment, from the situation. Maybe an assignment that's too difficult and they're getting frustrated, and you see them getting frustrated. You can see that the tensing of their little fingers, or this sucks, or shuffling the papers around. I can't do this. They need a break at that point. You know, their bodies are telling them they need a break, and you can see that. So a great idea is, before they get to that frustration level, give them that break card, teach them how to use it at that time. So when you start feeling like this, when you start squeezing your fist, you need a break. Give me one of your break cards, and you can take a little walk, or you can go get a drink, or you can go sit in I was in a classroom, they called it the chill out corner. You could go sit in the corner, sit on this, they called it a crash pad. It was a really cool mattress, because I mean, it was comfy. But anyway, it was in the corner, and beanbag chairs and stuff where the kids could go and sit for a couple minutes. You know, they had a specific time on how long that break would last. You didn't get a break card and it'd be 30-minute break, but you had 2 or 3, 5 minutes, whatever was best for the kids, and then they could come back to and be re-engaged. And one strategy, I've heard it called a time away. It's not a time out, I just need a time away. And this lady had a couple beach chairs and a beach scene in the back, and and had a little computer on with the TV. It was a big screen TV, but it had ocean scene, and waters and stuff, just real calming. And so the kid needed a time away. They took a couple minutes away, come back and say, "Thank you for coming back. Are you ready to get started? I'm here to help you. What can we do? You get started on this first part of this task. I'll be here to assist you. I'll be right back. Let me go check on everyone else," and then go back to that student. But then re-engage those students after that. And so, when is a break card appropriate? Like we said, when the kid needs a break. The kid can you can tell by their behaviors, but students, usually at, specific times throughout the day, you could provide those with those break cards. I think some of us use, brain breaks in our classroom, where the kids get up and move about and dance and wiggle and try to get the squirms out and all that stuff, which is a really great idea and strategy. But break cards are different for those kiddos that just doesn't do it for them. They have to have that extra movement and extra ability to get up. All right, so, and this is some examples of break cards. Or you can even buy some that you got Velcro strips, and you can put a little word break up there, I would rather use the visuals with our kids that are, our younger kids that have a difficult with telling you what they need. That's the ones that I would use the visuals for. Plus the visuals look better anyway, kid will show you that little card. I'd laminate them, and then that way you can use them over and over and over. Now you're going to give them, and we'll talk about that and Class Pass is similar to the break cards, except Class Pass is more for, I think, upper level grade kids. This work K through 6, K through 5, then 6 through 12 may want to use a Class Pass strategy. So in the folders that we put together for you, the presentation, if you scan it, QR code, I think it takes you to those folders of each session. There's examples of break cards, and you may have got some when you came in and picked them up. So we'll just look into those and see if you want to. Yes?
So do you have any strategies to use on working to teach them to not misuse their break card? Because I have several who would very quickly learn that all I got to do is show her this card and I get to step away, or I get to take a walk, or I get to not necessarily do this right now. And it would become a thing where they would want to show me consistently to get out of that.
Yeah.
So is there a strategy to teach them
Well,
not misuse it?
Well, I mean, yes, there's strategies, but don't give them an unlimited number of break cards. They should have only, give them only a few that they can use throughout the day, maybe 5. I mean, and that may be too few, maybe too many, but 5 break cards, throughout the day that they can use. And then once they use those up, then you got to say, all right, you've used those. I'm sorry, we can't do this. And tomorrow we'll start over and then do that. So, Miss Kim?
We split them. So I've had a few students that they all were permanently on break. So we did 3 in the morning and 3 in the afternoon. And then I also looked to see what are they always, if there was a consistency in every time we came to do math, that was when they said they needed a break. So it gave me information. What are they trying to avoid? Then how can I change up what that is to make them be less likely to give me a break during that? So that's the way I would go with that. And it doesn't have to be 3. You can decide what's appropriate for you. And I've had students that we had their break cards changed out every 2 hours, right? Instead of, morning and afternoon was too long for them. And they were students who did need frequent breaks. So we started building in a planned, like a 5-minute planned break into their schedule more often. Not all the time, but just to more consistently meet that need.
Thank you. Anyone didn't hear? Yes, very good question. Thank you for that. Thank you, Kim, for bailing me out. Sometimes we need help. But as Miss Kim was saying, she would probably split them up. You got so many to use in the morning, and then you got so many to use in the afternoon. Another thing, one thing, and that reminded me of something. My kiddos that I worked with, a couple of little fellows, they would have a rough morning. But it'd come up to lunchtime, and then it seemed like after lunch, it was perfect. It was or they'd have a perfect morning and then come to lunchtime and the evening would be bad. But lunch just seemed to be that anchor, that spot where my day either starts anew, and it usually did, and it just was kind of different, I guess, because I didn't realize that. It took a while to realize that. So.
I always tell people to think about it like work. If you could go into work and you could be like, I need a break, I need a break, I need a break, I would permanently be on breaks today.
Yeah.
I mean, I truly would take advantage of that. As a functional adult, there are days that I'm not feeling it, and I would just be like, I'm on a break, I'm on a break.
Yeah.
So just figuring out what your limit is. And Doug's right. You might want to, maybe if their mornings are worse, plan more breaks for the morning. Maybe they only need 1 break card or 2 break cards in the afternoon. So just thinking about that.
Yeah. Thank you. Anyone else? All right. So Class Pass, we'll talk briefly about Class Pass. Class Pass is similar to the break cards, except with Class Pass you have and with break cards you usually have somewhere in the classroom that they can go to take that break, have activities in that area. If they may like to color, they may like to work puzzles, just something to help them to refocus, help them to calm, refocus, and then so they can return to their seat and get started back on task. Now Class Pass usually involves having somewhere that they can go to other than the classroom. You know, so if I'm in that environment in the classroom and it's the stimulus in the classroom and is giving me my difficult times or causing frustration, I may need somewhere else that I can go to. Take a couple minutes and then come back. So with Class Pass, what strategies that you would use is you got to determine how many passes you're going to give the kiddos a day. You know, so if you have your student schedule is 6 classes, and you know, you may start them out with 6 passes a day. That way they could have 5 minutes or a break away from that class for a couple minutes each day. First starting these strategies out. And then as they get better or more proficient in staying in class or meeting those expectations of not using those break cards, and then we may go from 6 to 4 to 2 to, yeah, wow, man, you don't even need a break card now. Awesome. You are doing an excellent job. Thank you. So with Class Pass, like I said, we may start out with 6. You have a specific, and they may be for a specific amount of time too. You know, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, depending upon the kid and depending on, you know, their cognitive abilities and their intellectual levels of being able to handle what's going on. You may want to give them longer than 3 or 5 minutes. You may want to give them shorter time than that, but make sure that they stick to that time limit, and then have them a classroom or somewhere they can go to. My favorite person may be Miss Dion, and so when I come to class and it's algebra and I don't know how in the world they put them numbers and letters together and it's done messed me up, I got to have a break. Can I have a Class Pass? I want to use my pass. So you present it to my teacher. I go see Miss Dion for 5 minutes. She calms me back down, gives me a candy bar and a Coca-Cola, and sends me back. We are not advertising Coca-Cola. Tastes great. I got to try it first, but anyway, so anyway, then she sends me back to class, and I'm all hyped up, sugared up, ready to roll. And then the teacher has to deal with it, and they have. But anyway, so then you come back to class, and then continue with class. So at the end of the day, whatever class passes or whatever that the students have not used, they don't roll over to the next day, but they can bank them to the end of the week. And if you have so many saved up at the end of the week, if we started out with 6 passes, that'd be 30 a week. If I've only used 3 of those and I've got 27 saved up at the end of the week, I'm going to get a big reward or incentive for not using my passes. That meant that I did not have to leave class, that I was okay in the classroom. I handled everything that was going on. I had a really great week. So that way, at the end of the week, and they even have some way that they can count them and tally them and keep check on the progress. And these are some examples. This comes from a website called kyself.com, and this is so our Class Pass. This one right here is of course, what number is it? I'm using my first one. Number, how many you're using. Then the student's name, what time they took the pass, where they're going. Then Miss Dion would initial my card. I would bring it back, and if I'm not using those passes, I'm going to have these saved up toward a bigger reward at the end of the week. And then this is just a tracking chart on how to keep track of the class passes or the things that you saved. And you can, like I said, you can use these as an example. You make your own, however you want to do it. It's up to you, but just give it a try. Now, these strategies that we talk about, you know, a lot of times I've heard, well, I tried that and it didn't work. Okay. Sometimes, you know, it is difficult. How long did you try that? Well, we did that for 2 days and it didn't do anything. Goodness gracious, you know, if you're doing a reading strategy or a math strategy, do you do that for 2 days and say, this is never going to work? No, you got to keep trying, keep working. With behaviors the same way. It's took these kiddos have learned these inappropriate behaviors over years. It's not going to take 1 or 2 times trying something for that behavior to change. You got to be consistent and you got to keep trying that strategy. Now, if you've tried a strategy for 4 weeks and you've not seen any improvement in the behavior, then definitely change, definitely find something else to try. But don't give up on the first couple of days. A lot of times, Miss Patty and Miss Kim will agree, there will be that behavior burst. Everything gets worse before it starts getting better, because what I did in the past got me the attention or got me what I needed. It's not working now, so I'm going to be louder. I'm going to throw a worse tantrum ever and see if that gets me what I want. And so, and what do we do usually? What I always did when my little fellow threw a tantrum, I fell right into it. Oh, honey, it'll be okay. Daddy will buy that toy. You know, so yeah, that works at Walmart. But time out. Quick story. So, it's appropriate, trust me. This taught I don't know. Oh yeah. So anyway, electricity is off, so, you know, for dinner, I had to fix dinner, of course, my turn. We're going to McDonald's. And we get up there, and my youngest son, he's about, I don't know, 7, 8 year old. And all the way up there, he said, I want a Happy Meal, I want a Happy Meal, I want a Happy Meal. Well, before we left the house, I said, we're not going up there and spending $10 or whatever it was, $5 on a Happy Meal toy that you can get at Walmart for 37 cents. I'm not doing it. Don't ask for a Happy Meal. We're not doing it. All the way to McDonald's. I want a Happy Meal, I want a Happy Meal, I want a Happy Meal. So I told him several times, no, we're not doing that. We get out, man. My youngest son and my oldest son are getting to the door, and I'm dragging the little fella behind me, and my oldest one's at the door, and he grabs hold of that handle. I said, if I hear Happy Meal one more time, we're turning the truck around and going back to the house. You know, the classic threat that your parents have always done to you, don't make me turn this car around. Well, so I didn't turn around on the way, so I got to the parking lot. My youngest son hollering, I want a Happy Meal. My oldest son reached up and grabbed the door, and he said, Daddy, I want a Happy Meal. He's getting ready to pull that door open. I said, get in the truck. We're going home right now. So we loaded up and went to the house. No Happy Meal. So I had a buddy stop by. He said, y'all want something to eat? He said, I'm going to McDonald's. My youngest one said, don't get a Happy Meal. So anyway, I don't know where that came from, but I just had, yeah. So there you go. But he kept that strategy going. I want a Happy Meal, Happy Meal, Happy Meal. It didn't work. Turned him away. Anyway, hopefully, yeah, like I said, give those strategies, those ideals, those things that you're working at time to work. Because if not, then you're not going to see any progress. So the last one that we'll talk about, oh, look, flying right along. I'm glad y'all like that. Last one we're going to be talking about is check in and check out. Any questions before we go on? So check in and check out is a tier 2 strategy, as they call it, and it is used to provide feedback to students that need that a little bit of extra attention. You know, and maybe from well, it's just an extra attention. And check in and check out, there's check in and check out, and then there's check and connect. Check and connect takes into that community mentor that works with those kiddos. Check in and check out can be done within your own school setting. So check in and check out is, so the basics of check in and check out is the student checks in with someone in the morning, go throughout their day, and then they check out with that same person in the afternoon. When they check in with that person in the morning, I may check in with I may check in of the morning with Mr. Denny Paul, Mr. Denny Paul, take a couple minutes. I get off the bus. I go in and check in with Mr. Denny Paul. Hey, how you doing? Glad to see you. Hope you had a good evening. How's the family? You know, what'd you have for supper? Whatever, just some casual conversations. And I talk to him. He gives me a point card. It's a daily progress report or a point card. And it has the expectations that I'm working on or my goals of the behavior that I need to address or need to change. Has those listed, and it has a point system out there. It has 0, 1, or 2. If I get 0 points on that card for that day and that class period, that means I didn't do what I was supposed to. I had a terrible day, a terrible time during that class. If I get a 1, that means that I did pretty good. Staff had to remind me, the teacher had to remind me a couple of times, maybe to get on task, maybe to get my book open. You know, nothing serious, nothing bad. Better than what I had usually been, so they give me a 1. If I get a 2, it means I followed directions, I followed expectations. I was one of the best kids in the class, so I'll get full points for being there. And so then we look at this and see, all right, how many expectations or behaviors am I working on? What is going to be a point total to get so many points to be 80% accuracy on those goals or those objectives that I have or those expectations? And you base it on your IEP goals, of course. If you're expected to stay on task 80% of the time, one of my objectives that I'm working on for that day may be staying on task. And if I stay on task and get that percentage of 80%, then that is progress monitoring toward that goal on that IEP. Plus it gives me a reward at the end of the day. So I get my daily progress report card. I go around to all my teachers. I go through class and I do the work. Come back at the end of the day. They give me a rating on this card throughout. Come back at the end of the day. I check out with Mr. Denny Paul again. Then he either gives me a reward or encourages me to do better tomorrow. Then I take my card home, show it to my parents, get it signed, and bring it back the next day, and the process starts all over. So, and an example, and this shouldn't take, and the person that you check in with, it may not have to, it doesn't necessarily have to be a teacher. It could be a custodian, it could be a cook, it could be the secretary, clerk, anybody in that school that kid has a good relationship with could be that check-in and check-out person. And it helps to gauge what that day is going to be like by how they get off the bus. You know, so think about that. So first I get off the bus, I got breakfast in, I go to class, check in with Mr. Jones or Mr. May. I get my daily point card, my goals are reviewed, a reminder of what that point total or percentage has to be at the end of the day to earn that incentive. Then I go throughout my class. You know, of course, you have that discussion. Do you think you can do this? Do you think this is going to be too difficult? Are these things too easy? You know, you have that discussion. Be honest with yourself. Then you encouraged, of course, have a great day. I know you can do it. And that way, if he comes in a bad mood, maybe you can turn that around and let the teachers know, hey, it's kind of rough this morning, kind of might want to handle with care, I guess. Kind of be careful with what you say and cautious what's going on. So I go throughout the day. I give my point card to each of my teachers. If I do well, they sign off on it, tell me I did a good job or what I need to work on. They encourage me, or they either congratulate me or encourage me on to do better. And always, and it's difficult to do, but always start the next day or the next hour or whatever. It's a clean slate. With the kids that I worked with before, after an incident was over, it was over to them. Who holds on to that stuff? We do. We as educators hold on to that stuff, but for them it was finished. And then so go throughout, and then at the end of the day, check out with that person you came through, discuss how your day was, what it was like, what you could have done better, what you did really well with, what are some improvements or things that you need to change for the next day. And then take it home, discuss with the parents, and then bring it back. Now, some of our kiddos may be embarrassed to carry this daily progress report sheet with them, and I'm not doing that. That's stupid. They may throw it away or whatever. I think one school that I talked with, one district, they said that they were using it, but they used a Google Docs, and that way the teachers could do it that way, and the kid didn't have to keep up with the card. You know, they got it in the morning to find out what they were working on, and at the end of the day they got it. But throughout the day it was on the Google Docs, and the teachers rated them. Now you still have to talk to the kiddo about what rating you gave them, so be prepared for that. But it is easier than them taking it, ripping it up in front of you and throwing it in the garbage, because as soon as you do that, you ain't doing me like that. I'm the teacher. You can't do that. So that way it works for them. And plus it doesn't embarrass them that they're being called out in front of their peers. Did you bring your card? Get it signed, things like that. So think about some ways that we can, instead of paper and pencil copy, how we can use technology to make this process even better and easier. All right? Questions? And then again, information for check-in and check-out with the program. Manual explains it, and then this is an example of a daily progress report or point card. You can use that as well. And it is found at KVEC.com. It's a good website. It's got all kinds of behavioral strategies to use, Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3, and it looks at several different things that impact or affect the way our students behave. And that's it. Thank you all very much.